first is you have to be first, but the disadvantage of going last is everybody may have already said what you wanted to say. So there's no good way. And I feel like April and Kimberly and I are thinking very similarly. And really honestly, ladies, I will tell you, most of our homeschooling problems don't come issues. And I say problems because I find that this is the discouraging time of year. You know what I mean? We're just, whoa, could we be done already? And so most of our slumps and issues come not from the academic part, but from the heart part, right? And like Kimberly mentioned, things are magnified. They're not created because we homeschool. They would be there anyway, but they're magnified because we're there in the middle of it all the time. Today, I want to be real personal and share some of my story with you, and then share some things that I learned from it. And I'm gonna cry. I've got my Kleenex already. So I'm actually good at Kleenex. I've got toilet paper with me. But I want to be for real, because when I first began parenting, I had zero support. I mean, my mom loves me, and she is a jewel, but she's in Alabama, and that's a long way away. And it's just not the same as having somebody right here with you. And so it was a long journey, and I had to learn a lot from stupid mistakes and trial and error, and just plowing through and figuring it out myself. And so I decided then that I was going to, when I could, encourage and help other moms, because I did not want moms to feel as discouraged and as lonely as I did during that time period of my life. And that's why I have had a vision for a day like today, because if you don't have this kind of support, it is lonely. And and that just yes, thank you. That does that to everything else that you're trying to deal with at home. You know, when you yourself aren't in a good mental, emotional, spiritual place, then nothing at home is working right. And so I'm going to start by sharing just a little bit of my story. I was homeschooled growing up. I loved being homeschooled. I had a great relationship with my parents. I loved my siblings. I'm the oldest of 6. We have a great relationship. I loved my family. I was one of those that I did not resent being homeschooled. Growing up, when I got to college, I heard of all the people talking about how they were glad to be away from home, and I was like, I'm not, I miss home, you know? So I had a great growing up. I loved being homeschooled, but for some reason, I felt in my mind that I never wanted to homeschool because I wanted to have a bigger impact on life, and I wanted to teach in a real school. And so I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to be a teacher, but my dream was always to teach in a real school. And I knew I wanted to have kids, but I knew I did not want to homeschool my kids, and I wanted to teach in a real school, and my goal was a Christian school that my kids could come to, and I could still be a good mom and a part of their day, but I did not want to stay home and teach my kids. I felt that wasn't big enough, you know what I mean? And so a problem came into my life. I met my husband, Robert, and I married him, and he moved me out here to the middle of nowhere. And do you know how few and far between schools are here, especially private schools? And 18 years ago, there were even fewer and farther between. And so we met and married in Florida at college, and moved out here. I moved out here. He grew up out here. So I moved out here in 2000. We have been married almost 22 years now. And I carried with me my dream. I got a college degree. I was going to teach in a real school. But I did want to have kids, so we decided to start there. We started having kids. And I have my oldest, and her name is Evie Grace. And she knows the story that I'm going to share with you today, so don't be appalled. Evie was a challenge. I tell her very lovingly, you destroyed every ideal of motherhood that I had. She was a challenge. And I will say right up, part of that is because I was inexperienced and did not have support, and I didn't know what I was doing. I thought I did. I was the eldest of 6 children. I knew what I was doing. The eldest of 6. I had it under control. I knew what to expect. I didn't have a clue. But Abby did have her own issues too. So we were in the hospital, like I just had this baby 12 hours ago. And the nurses came into the room every little while and said, can I please help you quiet your baby? Because we have parents who are worried about the baby that's screaming. She just cried. She screamed loud, and she cried all the time. And I didn't know what was wrong with her. I didn't know how to fix her. I was doing everything I knew to do, but she was loud and cried a lot. The nurses were trying to show me how to nurse her. And she would push away and shove her head back, like we're talking hours old, and shoving away from me. And the nurses there said, I have never seen a baby struggle so hard against a mom this way. So there were issues, I don't know what they were, because at the time, there weren't a lot of advocates for different things. I don't know. But she carried that on into toddlerhood. And that defiant, I'm going to do it my way. And I noticed, heartbreakingly, that a lot of it was directed to me and not to anybody else. She was a daddy's girl through and through. If daddy said something, it was golden, I remember my husband saying, here, Christy, I'll step back and I'll tell you what to do and you do it, and then maybe it will work. So he would tell me exactly what to do. Okay, tell her this. Okay, and she, no, and it was not the same reaction at all. It was terrible. And so Eddie and I really never bonded. I loved her, but we just didn't have a close bond. And honestly, by the time she was ready for kindergarten, I was ready for her to go to kindergarten. And I was literally counting down the days until I could have peace and quiet and she could go to kindergarten. In the meantime, we had 3 more kids because we were just insane like that. And my other 3 were good. I mean, they were normal babies. We had our issues, but they weren't that defiant, no bond, kind of thing. They were regular babies. And so we had 4 kids in 4.5 years. And when my 4th was born in May, I began counting down for Evie to go to school in August, because Evie would turn 5 in July. She would be old enough to go to kindergarten, and that's what I was looking forward to. But my husband finally sat me down and said, Christy, we have 4 babies. There is no way you're going to drive an hour to Twin and back for a half day of kindergarten. We were homeschooled. You can do this. You need to figure it out. You're going to homeschool her for kindergarten, and we'll have to come back and we'll reassess at 1st grade. And he was right. I mean, really, an hour drive one way for a half a day when you have nursing babies and babies in diapers and babies needing naps, it's not practical. It wouldn't have been good. And so I just settled myself in with the fact that fine, we'll homeschool. My why that year was because I have to. That was my why. During that summer, before I started homeschooling her, I knew that I had to get some things together, organized at home. I had 4 kids, and 3 of them were just still little. And so my goal that summer was to get everybody taking a nap at the same time so that I could have a little bit of quiet time. And Evie had not taken a nap since she was 16 months old. If she took a nap, even for 5 or 10 minutes, she would be up till midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. So naps were not a thing for Evie, but I was trying to teach her, you're gonna stay in your room, you're gonna play quietly, you're gonna read books, I'll turn on music, but this is mom's time, you're gonna stay here. Well, she was being very defiant about that one day and coming out and just screaming, no, I don't want to, I don't like you. And we were just having a deal. And so that led to spankings, and it led to finally at 4 o'clock, she was just exhausted, and she fell asleep doing this, you know, the thing that just tears your heart out. And I'm standing there in the doorway listening to her do this and watch, and I hear Garrett start, Mama, Mama, because quiet time is now over. We've been wrestling for 3 hours over this. And I hear Andrew, can I get up now? And I was done. I had been nursing for 3 years solid. I had been up all night for years now. I know Kimberly's like, girl. But I was done. And I remember going into my living room and picking up a pillow off the living room and sitting on the floor and just screaming into it. And I call this my come to Jesus moment. I hollered and I said, I hate my life and I'm not doing this for 18 more years. That's where I was. And I remember specifically praying and saying, God, I'm trying to do what you want me to do, and you're not giving me anything for it. So I guess you're going to have to do it for me. Like, that's a novel idea, right? We can't do anything in our own strength, can we? We have to give it to God and let Him do it, right? And so that's where I started homeschooling. But I was a teacher. I love to teach. And so I ordered all the books. My goal was, we're sending her to an Abeka school. I'm going to get the Abeka curriculum. I'm teaching her everything just as is. And we are going to have her ready to march out that door at first grade. And so I started teaching her kindergarten. And do you know what happened? We started bonding. I finally figured out that I think Evie just needed some one-on-one attention. She just needed some time that was just hers. And she also loved learning. She's always loved learning. And she and I began to grow closer to each other. I loved teaching. She loved learning. We found something that brought us together. And so as Evie began to enjoy learning, I began to devour books and blogs that would show me how to do this, how to do it well, how to do it better, because she was responding for the first time. My daughter and I liked each other. I mean, we always loved each other, but we now liked each other, you know? And we began to grow closer, and it just encouraged me to start soaking in everything about homeschooling. And a lot of homeschooling is linked to motherhood, of course. And so I began finding there is a purpose in motherhood. Remember when I had said I wanted to teach in a real school because I wanted to have a big impact? I began to see, God began to show me, you have your biggest impact right here in this house. I remember reading, Jesus only had 12 disciples that he taught while here on this earth. That's it. I've been given 6. What can I do with them? Jesus turned the world upside down with 12 disciples. What can I do with 6? You know? As I began to see the possibilities, the responsibility, the opportunity that I had to make a difference in my home, everything changed for me. And I still had no support. I still had no homeschool group, nothing. But I used the internet. It was just becoming a popular thing back in 2000, whatever. And I used it. I began finding all the resources I could. And I found things that helped me have a happier homeschool. And today, I'm at a place where I can't imagine doing anything different. I am thankful that God kept me from putting my daughter in kindergarten. If I would have put her in kindergarten, she would have found her happiness in someone besides me, right? And our kids need to ultimately find their happiness in Christ, but at 5, they find it in who they're close to, right? And she would have found that somewhere besides our home. And that scares me, because I don't want my kids to find their happiness in someone else. That's why God gave them to me, so that I can guide them, I can direct them, I can mold them and shape them, right? And so these are some things that I've implemented in my life. And whenever things begin to go downward in our home, I come back to this list, because ultimately there is something here that is missing in my home if things are not going well. So the first thing, and it's already been mentioned several times, is to have a vision. Know your why. At the time when I first started homeschooling, I didn't know you were supposed to do that. So I just sat down on my own and I wrote out. And this is my why, y'all, from 13 years ago that I wrote down. I'm not going to share all with you, but some of the things that I wrote down were have a close and personal relationship with Jesus, have a passion for living to serve God no matter what they're doing in life, have a servant's heart, be pure and self-disciplined in thoughts, have great character knowing that God sees and knows even if no one else does, be imaginative and creative. Those are some of the things that I wrote down 13 years ago that I wanted to see in my family, to show our children how great and good God is to them, to show how much He deserves our service and how undeserving we are of what He's done for us. Practical things like spend one-on-one time with each child so that they can grow in weak areas and encourage their strengths. Making opportunities for us to serve in our church or in the community. Those were in my whys at the time, because that's all I knew to do, was just, this is what I want our family to look like. Write down your purpose. What is your purpose? What do you need to be reminded of when the days are hard? Homeschooling is a hard journey. It's a long-term journey. It's difficult on some days. There are some days that are really good. But for the most part, it's plodding through and doing the next thing that needs to be done. And so what do you need on the days that are hard? What do you need to remind yourself of? So I keep my why in 3 different places. I keep my why in the schoolroom, because that's where most average everyday conflict hits the fan. And then I keep my why in the bathroom, because that's where I go to scream and cry. And I keep my why in my Bible, so that I can pray over it and ask God, is this still where I need to be? Is this what our why still needs to be? Are we succeeding here? Do we need to come back to it and redo some things? Then set goals to achieve your why. Know where you want to be this week. Some people are very rigid and strict and need that rigid routine. Some people are more flexible, but either way, we should have goals, right? Know what your priority is this week. Sometimes it's the heart of that child is not where it needs to be, and we need to work on relationship right here. Sometimes it's, and I'm still doing this with my 10-year-old, he needs to learn to say the days of the week in the right stinking order. If we don't accomplish anything else this week, we are gonna say the days of the week in order, not Friday, Thursday. So know what your goals are for the week. Know what you want to accomplish this month. I began to establish things like we're going to do a family read aloud. And every month we have a book that we are trying to read through each month. We have a hymn that we are trying to learn each month. We have, oh, there was one more thing. A hymn, a book. Oh, well, there's something else, but I can't think of it, that we do each month. But having those monthly goals. Oh, a character trait, that's what it is, character trait. Every month we focus on one particular character trait. That way we're continually saying the definition, the scripture, and I have little phrases that I put underneath and this in your book is in the back, is a sample of what I'm actually doing with my teens right now. I'm going to hit it in a minute, but you need to character train all the way through adulthood. Don't stop training character just because they're not in elementary anymore. Keep that character in front of them at all times. Go deeper. Right now my little kids are doing patience. Patience is waiting with a happy heart. Well, with my big kids, patience goes a lot farther. We're going to learn a lot deeper, and we're going to learn to be courteous and kind and patient in our words, and we're going to go further into that definition. So character train all the way through, but have a goal each month. And then what do you want your family to look like in 5, 10 years? It goes by fast. It's gone in a blink. And if you don't have goals and parent and homeschool with intention, it's done and you didn't accomplish what you wanted. You only have a short time, so make it count. Make it count. Another thing that I began to do was to establish routines and habits. Having a daily rhythm, a daily routine. You may be that minute-by-minute planner, or you may be that we're going to do math first, then we do English next, and then we do, make it fit you, but you need to have a routine. I liked what April said because I found the same thing. I didn't want to have a routine. I liked being able to just do whatever came next and jump up and fly to the next thing. But I found that our kids were happier when we had a routine, when they knew what to expect, when I knew what to expect, we were all happier. And so having that rhythm, don't let the urgent get in the way of the important. Don't let the urgent get in the way of the important. There are so many little things that feel like they need to be done right now. But if this is not what is helping you to achieve your goal and vision, you need to let it go and take care of the important thing. The joke is we get called to babysit because we're home all day doing nothing, That's urgent, but that's not important. The most important thing is your family and what you need to accomplish that day. Don't be afraid to say no if it doesn't fit what is important to you and your family. April used the word gatekeeper. You're the gatekeeper. Don't make your children's childhood stressful so that you can take care of everybody else's needs. Meet the needs of your family. And don't let the urgent get in the way of the important. Make priorities that align with your goals and stick to them. Again, don't be afraid to say no. Habits. Going back to when I was a young mom, I had to learn that there was a difference between training and disciplining. Growing up, we were spanked. And I knew I didn't like spanking, so that's why I did what I was told, So I just thought, you're 3, you don't like spankings, you'll not do this anymore if you get a spanking, right? And so I reacted more than trained. And some people, maybe this is like, no duh, you, but to me it was a whole enlightening. I was like, really? Training, do tell, what is this? And so training is to be taught through practice and instruction over a period of time, right? So when we want our kids to do something, when we have expectations for them, we need to give them a time of grace to learn that expectation and habit before we discipline for it, right? So for an example, we changed churches about 5 years ago, and my youngest was 2 when we switched churches. And for the first time, we were at a church without a nursery. And so my kids had to learn how to sit out in a church. And that was hard. And so I had learned by then, we're not just going to take the 2-year-old to church, and when she is loud, pick her up and pull her out and spank her, right? Instead, we're going to go home and we're going to practice. We're going to start at 5 minutes, sit on mom's lap for 5 minutes, and let's listen to this. And I would usually turn a sermon on so that she was used to this is not, in their words, it's boring, they don't understand. But turn a sermon on and let her listen for 5 minutes, and then we do that for a week, and then the next week we move it up to 10 minutes, and then 15. And you can implement this with anything that you need to train your kids in. We would practice walking around the house and not touching anything and keeping our hands in our pockets. So that when we went to the grocery store, they would line up behind me and we'd walk through the grocery store and they had to keep their hands in their pockets. But doing things like that so that you're practicing at home, and when you go out and about, it's not a circus. And you're happy and they're happy, and you're all winning, right? And then the times of discipline come when they know what's expected, but they're defiant about it. And some people don't spank. That's between you and your husband. It's your preference, but it needs to be effective. It needs to be consistent. It needs to be something that makes an effect on them, that they do not like, and that it needs to be consistent. Every time there is a defiance, it needs to be addressed, right? So by doing those things, I found that we had a happier home. We were practicing our expectations instead of just demanding them, right? So implement also character training through adulthood. Like I said, there are so many character resources out there, but I cannot stress to you how much that has changed our home just by consistently keeping character in front of us every single day. We take these and go over them every morning at breakfast together and every evening at supper together. It's just something that we are constantly putting in front of our eyes so that we constantly remember this is our goal for this month. And then doing it for a month allows you to kind of get into the habit of that was not courteous. And I tell them these things. I tell them, you're not acting like a child of God right now. You need to fix that. You're not, I'm on kindness here. You have courteous. I will be careful of pranks and deception. I'm married to the king of pranks. And so we have to watch it in our house because sometimes it can go too far and people are hurt by it, And so we pull that one out a lot. We need to be careful of pranks. You're not being careful right now. I will not be loud during normal quiet hours. Gavin, my 10-year-old, is like, there's no Bible verse for that, Mom. Proverbs 27:14. Go look it up. and so I love that I can use that on him because he is loud all the time. I'm like, yeah, Gavin, it is normal quiet hours. You need to be quiet. I will not withhold good, and bring those points out to your kids. Don't withhold good from someone. You have the ability to be a blessing right now. Don't be snotty and turn them away, The other thing that I learned was to prioritize relationships. And I know that this seems so obvious, but to me, I guess I just didn't really see kids as little people necessarily. I don't know. I don't know. It wasn't intentional. But I just didn't prioritize relationships with them, and that showed in the change that came about with Evie once I began noticing her and spending one-on-one time with her. We did a lot of things together and fun things, but something about that one-on-one time just made a difference for her. Make time for one-on-one time. It's something that is hard to do. And of course, the more kids you have, the harder it is to do. But it doesn't have to be. I used to think, it's got to be this long, drawn-out thing. It doesn't have to be. Just when your kiddo comes and sits on your lap, put the phone down, put everything away, and just spend that 2 or 3 minutes filling up their tank with love and cuddles. Yes, I will spend time with you. Yes, I had other things I was planning to do, but here we are. We're going to do this. When your daughter is in the kitchen cooking with you, don't be in the middle of everything else all the time. Make it a point to have some of those times where you can just spend chatting and where you can laugh and joke or talk or ask questions. When your sons are, playing with their cars and trucks in the floor, go sit down with them every now and then and sit, and they'll tell you all about it for hours if you sit there and just smile, and they love it. They're like little men. They just like to talk to you and tell you all about how great they are and everything they know, right? so really, you don't have to do anything, just be there. But making time for that one-on-one time, we always say people over things. Is this thing more important than the relationship right now? You know, when siblings are quarreling, excuse me, is this more important than your relationship with your brother or sister? And then I have to call my own self out. Is that math more important than my relationship with my child? Am I really going to get that livid over this situation because, you know, am I going to sacrifice my relationship right now for this? What's more important, the relationship or the thing you're having the conflict over? Capture your child's heart. And you could do a whole like year-long seminar on this. There's so much in this, but this is the key to homeschooling. Capture your child's heart. And by that, I mean, make sure that they know you are walking beside them through this. Make sure that they know you're not just pushing and shoving from behind and demanding and expecting and beating them over the head with what you want. You are here because you love them. They are the greatest treasure you have. They are the greatest investment you'll ever make. And you want them to know that. And I always tell my kids, you can tell me anything you want as long as you tell it to me respectfully. And they call me out. Mom, you're not being very patient right now. Okay, well, that's capturing your child's heart. Being willing to admit where you've been wrong and coming alongside them and cheering for them, encouraging them. I always think I would never go up to a friend and just say, you've got this all wrong. You need to totally rethink your decisions here. And you know, the voice and the tone, we would never do that with a friend. Why would we do it with our children? Why do I expect them to have a habit learned in a day when I can't learn a habit in a month? You know, coming alongside of them, being their support, being their guide. Truly, our kids need us, and they know they need us. They would be lost without us. They need our boundaries. They need our encouragement. They need our support. They need our unconditional love. And when those things, they don't feel those things, they're insecure. And they react because of that insecurity. And so we need to come alongside and envelop them with that love that says, you know what? You're struggling right now, and I know that, and I see that. How can I help you? What do we need to do together? I just had a conversation with my 15-year-old son. He gets really angry unexpectedly about different things, and you're just like, whoa, where did that come from? And so I sat him down and I said, Garrett, you're really struggling right here, and it's getting worse, and I see that. We need to fix this. And so here are some Bible verses that I've been praying over you. Will you take these and read over them? And then why don't we talk about it later on tonight? And I want you to let me know how I can help you with this, you know? And my kids will have signals. The most famous one is this. You know, like, you're going too far. Or, Garrett, you're losing your cool. Or my 16-year-old likes to be a smart mouth right now. I'm just like, knock it off. You know, that's your signal. I'm helping you right now. I'm warning you that you're going to go places you don't want to go if you don't stop. That's capturing your child's heart. And like Kimberly said, you can sit them on the body, but you can't make them go pee. If you don't have their heart, you can preach to them all day long, but they're not going to do it, and they're not going to change. They have to know they can trust you, and they want to respect you. But we have to earn that to a certain extent. We need to give our kids the ability to trust us. Don't give them a reason not to trust us. Treat them with respect, and they will treat you with respect. Speak kindly, speak encouragingly, and come alongside them. Slow down, have fun. Our kids need to see us smile. They need to see us laughing. If we are too busy to enjoy our kids, then we need to reprioritize. If we don't have time to have fun with our children, we need to reprioritize. Don't be rushed. I know my kids, when they were little, they're like, we're always rushing, we're always going. Don't be rushed. Take out the things. You can either be mediocre or you can be excellent. And the difference between the two is choosing between better and best. We don't have a problem most of the time choosing between bad and good. It's choosing between better and best, right? That's hard. That's the hard part. Because it's hard sometimes to give up those things that are good, because it's harder to do the best, right? So be willing to give up some things if it means being able to have fun with your kids. Another very practical thing that I started doing was decluttering. I found I was always doing laundry, so I finally took out a whole bunch of laundry and gave it away. Okay, all the laundry we have. And I still do that to this day. I mean, my boys have 3 pairs of jeans. They have 3 go-to-town shirts, and 3 Sunday shirts, and 2 pairs of dress pants, and that's it. We just took it down, and I do the same with my girls. They have a few pairs of jeans, they have a few skirts, they have a few church outfits, a few shirts, but we don't have the laundry, and it has to be done more often now before it accumulates, because we don't have much to last, So declutter. If the dust and the frustration of cleaning the things gets you worked up, get rid of some of it. If paper clutter is a problem, get rid of it. We don't have to be slaves to things. We shouldn't be slaves to things. And if they're making us not be able to enjoy our home, then we need to get rid of them. Our home is our workplace, right? So we need to have our home usable, clean, decluttered, and organized. And that's going to look different for everybody, Your clean is going to be different from my clean. Your organization is going to look different from mine. But what makes you able to relax and enjoy being in your home? Then declutter until you get to that place, right? And then the last thing I put, and I put it last on purpose, is take time for yourself. It's important, but I do think our culture has too big of a focus on it. And I find that many times I go out and I take time for myself, and I come back and I'm just angrier because all I have left to do, Or I just feel more overwhelmed when I get back. So take time for yourself, but don't take that religiously either. Have a balance. Something that I found was that I needed, in taking time for myself, not necessarily the big events, I needed just a calm spirit. And that I achieved those things lots of times by just going for a walk. Getting out in nature will do amazing things for you. If you will go out and breathe some fresh air, sit in the sunshine while your kids are playing, it's amazing. God made our bodies to really reset and relax in nature. And so do that. Take time to do things that are profitable and purposeful in your time for yourself. Do something you love. I love music. I hated giving up my choirs to be a mom. I really resented it for a long time. But God has been so gracious to me and has given me opportunities to still be able to have a choir here and there that I can be a part of, and I love doing that. something like this that I'm doing today this is doing something for myself. I love doing things like this. And I'm so thankful that my husband allowed me to and is encouraging me to, because this is time for me by doing something like this. Find what you love and do that. And do it in balance, of course, but don't be afraid to keep your dreams alive too. And then surround yourself with like-minded people. I find that just being around a friend who knows what I'm going through, who understands what I'm going through, and who can remind me, you know, Christy, that's not the kind of talk that's going to help you reach your goal. Or, you know, you're discouraged right now, can I pray for you? Or just a word of encouragement somehow, some way. Surround yourself with people who can cheer for you, who don't secretly think you're a psychopath for being a homeschooler. But surround yourself with people who will love you and encourage you and who think the same as you. And then evaluate your week and not your day. There are days when we all go to bed crying and feeling like a failure, right? That's not the time to do a hardcore evaluation. It is usually when they occur. And you may find some things then that you need to fix. But look at the whole week. Look at the whole week and give yourself grace. Just like capturing our children's heart involves giving them grace, we need to be willing to give ourselves grace. We need to be willing to say, you know, this is a marathon. It's not going to happen all today. I messed up today, but I have tomorrow to start again, right? Don't go enroll your kids in school on a really bad day. Take a breath. Think. Remind yourself of your why. Grab your vision back and get up and start the next day again. And then at the end of the week, look back and say, you know, Tuesday I really blew it. I need to find out why that was such a bad day, you know, and let's kind of refocus and get things back on track so that it doesn't happen this Tuesday, right? So the end of my story is that I am now at a place that I love. I am now at a place that my home is the place I love being. I'm at a place that 13 years later, I look and I see how good God's been. And I see these things happening, y'all. My children do know how great and good God is. I see my older ones striving to have a relationship with Jesus. I see my oldest excelling in college and finding her place, and she's able to do it out there on her own. I see where over the years we have served together as a family. And those are the things that bring me joy. And it's a joy that no salary can ever buy. It's a joy that no job can ever give you. Seeing these things are the impact that affect your families for generations. For generations. We have that capability. We have been given a family that we can mold into anything. Anything. The fact that God would give us that responsibility is mind-boggling. But it is there and it's ours, and we have opportunity for everything. My oldest daughter, that I did not like very much, is my best friend now. She would not be that if I had put her in school, I don't think. We have had to work through a lot, and our family is not perfect, and we have our battles, and we have our struggles, and we have our moments where mom loses her cool. But we go back to the why, we go back to the vision. And I'm going to share a little bit of a letter that Evie gave me on my birthday this year. It was the first birthday I had without my Eddie Grace in 18 years. And it was a hard one. But she sent this to me in the mail. And she said, I love you very, very much, and I'm so thankful that God gave me you for a mom. You're pretty much the greatest blessing He has given me. You're an amazing mom and such a good example to me, as I'm sure you are to many others as well. Thank you for all your encouragement, especially over this last semester. I don't know if I could have made it through without it. I'm so thankful that God gave you that gift. Evie texted me 3 or 4 times this week and said, I'm praying for you, Mom. I know this is something you've always wanted to do. I don't know where you are in your homeschool journey. Maybe you're where I was 13 years ago, saying, I hate my life, and I don't want to do this. Maybe you've never been there. Maybe you're lonely in a different kind of way. We all have our struggles, our personal struggles. It may not look the same as mine, but we all have the opportunity here in this community to encourage one another, to grow together,